So before we get to our readings for today, let's take a moment of silence to bring the mind back home, connecting with our breath and getting the mind fully in the body here and now, leaving all the thoughts, unresolved thoughts, feelings, everything can be put aside for now. Evoking Mother's and Sri Aurobindo's presence. So we'll again pick up the threads from Conversation with Sri Aurobindo by Pavitra. So far we have covered many questions and responses of Sri Aurobindo to those questions. And crux of the matter of advice usually given to Pavitrada is to separate the movement of Prakriti from the witnessing consciousness, which is the Purusha, as they say. So first this disentanglement is required, and slowly when we do the disentanglement, then we realize that we have the power not to listen to those dictates that are harmful, that are not beneficial anymore. We don't want to remain there. So when we become the witness consciously, unconsciously we all are witnessing, but when we consciously become the witness, then we realize, as Sri Aurobindo tells in one of the passages, that uh, the Purusha is the Anumanta, he is the sanctioner, and by default the sanction is given that okay, all the patterns can rule me, all the thoughts can come and overpower me. By default that sanction has been given, but when I realize that I am the one who has given the sanction, then I can also withdraw that sanction if it's harmful. So I can choose not to listen to those dictates which or of thoughts, of feelings, of disturbing emotions, which so far I have been continuing to listen. But now I want a better life, and I don't want to give those dramas or storylines that much of importance that I gave earlier. So I choose, we make a choice. So we withdraw the sanction. So this we had read, and placing the attention above our head from time to time, which is also very helpful in opening to the consciousness above, and also not remaining engaged in the chatter of the surface mind. So let me see what can be. Okay, we can maybe take this. This looks nice. Yeah. So Monday, April 19, 1926. We can take this question. Yeah, would anyone want to read? Yes.
Yes. One second. Okay. Ma'am, can you scroll up a bit?
Uh, you can just start from this question.
Okay,
Last
okay,
time.
last time. Okay.
Yes.
Last time He spoke to me about psychic knowledge and its character of truth. Does this knowledge concern facts, beings, and events of the manifested world, or simply metaphysical truths? The word metaphysical indicates a mental knowledge, and there is in psychic knowledge a nearness, a concrete reality very different from intellectual speculation. To say that it brings material knowledge would be wrong. That is not its field. It transforms the being into a being of truth, into a flame of aspiration for the truth. Psychic knowledge would be rather a contact, a feeling. When it is said that the heart knows better than the brain, one expresses something that would come near it, although there is a gulf between emotion, feeling, and the psyche. The psychic being receives the truth but does not create it, as opposed to the supramental. There is a difference between the two. The faculty of recognizing the truth at first sight, I'll just read that one more time. The faculty of recognizing the truth at first sight comes from intuition, one of the forms of the lower supramental knowledge. The true knowledge, which never errs, is that by identity.
Yeah, thank you. So I think for our practical purposes here, since we cannot experience or say much of the supramental, but with the psychic, it's like more close. It appears more close, right? So here I feel, and please feel free to add on or share. Uh, Here the psychic knowledge would be rather a contact, a feeling. When it is said that the heart knows better than the brain, one expresses something that would come near it, although there is a gulf between emotion, feeling, and the psyche. The psychic being receives the truth but does not create it, as opposed to the supramental. So, I would not go right now into the supramental, but of course, if we have reflections, please feel free to add on. But here, the psychic knowledge is this sentence over here is for practical purposes, I feel relevant to us. Psychic knowledge would be rather a contact, a feeling. So, usually, there is a knowing. I think we all of us have glimpses of that knowing. Like, imagine that there is a child begging or somebody homeless that you find who is looking for some help. Immediately, something in us, most of us, will just kind of reach out and offer whatever you have, would want to offer at least. But what we do is that the logical mind comes up and it makes all kinds of reasoning why I should not be offering what I have to the fellow who is in need. So it will say that begging is not good. I should not promote begging. Why is this person making a business of begging here? Why is he not doing any work? See, I work and that's why I earn. So all kinds of reasoning comes uh, and covers up that psychic impulse that came to you of giving without any reason. So all of us from time to time, I feel that we have glimpses of this spontaneity that you just felt like doing that, giving yourself some compassion, the act of kindness, anything. But we override it most of the times by giving ourselves reasons. And that is how we again bring a curtain between us and the psychic by the reasoning of it. So that compassion or generosity, that act of kindness that you could have done, you didn't do because the mind has all the reasons why not to do it. So, and you can't justify it. So there is no reason that you can give why you did uh, what you did. I think I'm remembering here there was this person who jumped on a railway track and saved a child who had by chance fallen on the railway track, and immediately he became a superstar somewhere outside India. And he was very he could not understand what just happened, because he said, and when somebody questioned him, interviewed him, he said that it just came naturally that I have to do that. And because people were saying that, oh my god, how courageous you are, that you did not even think about your life and you just went out and saved that child, you could have also died or whatever. But he said that I didn't think of all that, it just felt very natural to go after that child and to save that child. Now, in the process, of course, if you begin to use reason before you save the child, you can say that, oh, I can die, and in the meantime, the train can come and the child is gone. But he didn't spend time in that reasoning. He just felt that direct knowing, a direct knowing was there, and he just followed that knowing. We also, from time to time, have that direct knowing. Many a times we have that regarding the person who we are getting married to. Many a times, you have a feeling whether I should be doing this or should not be doing this. But we many a times override that feeling, and we don't listen to it. We think that no, no, sab theek hi to hai, and we override it, and later on we discover that maybe not a very best choice or not a very good idea. Regarding jobs, these kind of direct knowing can come. Regarding which road to it can come any time, which road to take today for reaching your home or office. It just is available to us 24/7, but we are so overridden by the flux of reasoning that it kind of becomes a bright luminous bar, as Sri Aurobindo puts in Savitri. Your thought is a bright luminous bar. It is very bright. We think that we are seeing, but it's like a bar, it's like a curtain, bright curtain. Also, he uses in Savitri. So, yes, yeah. Anything more over here, anyone? I think this is also very relevant. Psychic knowledge, a nearness, a concrete reality, very different from intellectual speculation. So, it's a direct knowing. You just know what you have to do in that moment. So for you it is concrete, for others they may be wondering how could you do that. But for you it's a concrete reality. You are choiceless in that moment. If you truly listen to the psychic, then it's choiceless. You don't have a choice. And I'm sure all of us have uh, experience and glimpses of that directness. Yeah, so anything here, anyone on this response or question? So this last paragraph is also very nice. The first line, I think, again very practically relevant for us. The faculty of recognizing the truth at the first sight comes from intuition, one of the forms of lower supramental knowledge. So हम तो ऐसे हैं कि हम आधी इंट्यूशन से इतने ज्यादा खुश हो जाते हैं कि उसके बाद वी आर अगेन ऑर्डिनरी. हमको लगता है हाँ, oh, I had a direct knowing or whatever, something came to me, and उसके बाद we lose it because we can't bear that poise within. even that is so fulfilling, a little bit of intuition in life. And that, he says, is one of the lower rungs. Intuitive mind lies below. There are other ranges of mind above also. But even that is very fulfilling. And intuition comes mostly when we have a relatively quiet being, because then we give chance to the intuition so that it can come in. Otherwise, there is hardly any space. So, this intuition, the direct recognition of truth, that I just know I have to do this. I don't know how I will do this. I have not sorted out the plan, but I know I have to be there. So that knowing is intuition, right? There is, and the things may figure out later how you will reach that place or that person or wherever you feel that you just have to be there. That figures gets figured out later on the way, as a part of process, but you don't plan it in advance. And it's also not very aggressive. There is no point of aggression or violence in it. It's just a direct seeing, like one sees a computer in front. It's very concrete. So like that, you concretely know that this is what you have to do or have to say, or and people may later on call you brave, but you would say that it just came naturally to you, something like that. That would be faculty of directly recognizing the truth at the first sight. That comes from intuition. So for this, we have to relatively work with our mind. A very chaotic mind will be not able to have intuitions, and will not, if it will have, it will not be able to listen to it. Many a times we do have intuitive insights, but we discard it. That also we do. Reason comes and then we just reason with it, and the intuition is gone. It takes a back seat. So it's up to us. We are making the choice. Yeah. Anything here? Anyone? Or shall we move ahead? So let's read about next. It's like Sri Aurobindo is explaining different types of revelation, intuition, discernment. Let's read about it. I think it will be revelatory. So if anyone is feeling ready, you can read the next bit, the question and the response. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll go.
Yes.
Steiner distinguishes 3 degrees of occult knowledge: imaginative, inspired, and and unitive. The last, which cannot err, is probably knowledge by identity. I'll read it again. Steiner distinguishes 3 degrees of occult knowledge: imaginative, inspired, and unitive. The last one, which cannot, and unitive, the last, which cannot err, is probably knowledge by identity. Question mark. I didn't really understand this.
Sorry, which part?
This one, Steiner distinguishes 3 degrees of occult knowledge:
Yes.
imaginative, inspired, and unitive. The
Yes.
last, which cannot err,
Yes.
is probably knowledge by identity.
Yeah. So he's talking about the last one mentioned here, unitive.
Yeah.
And he's asking a question about that the last which cannot err. So there can never be an error in this kind of a knowledge, which is coming
Hmm.
from identity. He's asking that the last which cannot have any error is probably
Hmm.
knowledge by identity, which we read in the earlier paragraph was only possible with the supramental knowledge. That,
Okay.
see, for example, right now you are Ritu, I am Monica. Hmm? But
Yeah.
I don't know how you think and how you feel, right? So I have no identity with you. When I am you, then I am identity with you, right? But
Mm-hmm.
since we live in our ego consciousness we don't have, and we don't practice also. With sadhana one realizes, and one can be in that supramental state where one is totally one with the other person, so that there is no otherness. And in that we have knowledge by identity. Like I am
Mm-hmm.
Ritu, that's why I know how it feels. There is no other Ritu over there. So that is knowledge by identity.
Okay.
So he's asking that the last which cannot err is probably knowledge by identity.
Mm.
And then Sri Aurobindo answers.
The first form of intuition is clothed in mental forms which distort it. Moreover, the mind is not satisfied with that. It receives and it crystallizes everything around its own accretions. There is something true and much that is false. Besides, the mind learns to pass off its data under the appearance of intuitions. When the being begins to ask for intuitive knowledge, the personality sends its desires and prejudices under the guise of intuitions. And so, at the beginning, intuitive knowledge is not very sure. Then it develops. But even before it is brought to perfection, other modes of knowing develop. There are four grades in intuition: the elementary form of supramental truth, intuition, proper, sporadic, and irregular, which brings isolated elements. It gives the impression of remembering a latent, past, or subconscious knowledge. Discernment: here there is a process, a non intellectual work which accepts certain elements and rejects others. Inspiration: something comes from outside and expands within. Analogy of a voice which speaks in you. Revelation: analogy of a vision. I thought you would like to join us in the evenings once or twice a week. Which day suits you?
Yeah. So now he's asking Pavitrada to join him on the evening talks. Yeah. So we'll stop here, pause here. Okay. So this is very common, and one has to be very wary of this, because anything can be labeled as intuition. मुझे बहुत जबरदस्त intuition हुई थी. We can use that. The mind can use that to make way for its own manipulations and demands. It so he says that it distorts. No? So the first form of intuition is clothed in mental forms which distort it. Moreover, the mind is not satisfied with what it receives, and it crystallizes everything around its own accretion. So, whatever as an ego my demand is, whatever my expectation or liking or a preference is, even if I have got a glimpse of actually true intuition, something truly higher came into my being, I would formulate it in such a way that it becomes a mean for my ego to find its way. So that is very, very common, and that is why a lot of purity in the being has to be there uh, to be able to actually receive pure intuition. Otherwise, it does get distorted. We can't help it. So there is something true and much that is false. So, for example, somebody might get an intuitive insight, say that you have to begin begin to maybe do some social work, like I have to offer myself to people. We may get insights like that, intuition like that. And what we do is that, because very few moments are there when we have true silence in the being, true quietude in the being, so that the intuition can remain pure in its own original form. But since we are not usually in that state, pure state, and our minds are not pure enough. There is a lot of chaos of the logical and analytical minds and its own expectations and demands from life. So what it will do is that it will make it in such a manner that it becomes a means to accentuate the ego. Like, see, I am the one who started this beautiful venture or whatever. Now the insight, or sorry, the intuition that would have come, it may be that it was actually pure, and some good still will be done through that gesture of that person. But you have made it another means of accentuating the ego. So something pure came, but since I'm not ready and I still have promises that I have from this world, I want respect, I want name, fame, I want to be recognized, and see, I am the one who is giving so much. So all these things can come, and that again can become a way of aggrandizing the ego only, although the initial insight may be true. So, like that, the mind would distort it and crystallize everything around its own accretions. So, Sri Aurobindo says there is something true and much that is false. Besides, the mind learns to pass off its data under the appearance of intuitions. So उसको आदत पड़ जाती है कि ओ ये भी intuition था, अच्छा वो भी intuition था, so we begin to misuse it. Besides, the mind learns to pass off its data under the appearance of intuitions. When the being begins to ask for intuitive knowledge, the personality sends its desires and prejudices under the guise of intuition. So ये बहुत ज़्यादा, we have to be really very vigilant of this, because this is a very common phenomena, that I had an intuition that I have to do that. It was not an intuition, it's just that you want to do that. It's a desire. So there would not be any agitation in that intuition. Desire always has a very intense vibration. And so that at the beginning, intuitive knowledge is not very sure. Then it develops. But even before it is brought to perfection, other modes of knowing develop. And then he shares about those modes of knowing, direct knowing. Intuition proper, sporadic, in between we get glimpses, then we are lost it, then but they again come intermittently, irregular, which brings isolated elements. They may not be joined fully, they may not make a complete picture, but you get some insights. So we were reading in Savitri that it's only possible in the supramental plane of consciousness that the golden links are got back again, and those little glimpses of light that we see, they are kind of connected with those golden links. So we get a proper picture of what really truth consciousness wants us to do. For that we have to do some sadhana, some work. So which brings isolated elements. It gives the impression of remembering a latent, past or subconscious knowledge. So there is not full clarity, it's kind of partial haze. Discernment, here there is a process, a non-intellectual work which accepts certain elements and rejects others. So as we develop our witnessing aspect, the witnessing consciousness, we see that we also develop discernment. We just know what pattern is beneficial and what is not. We just know what word is to be used, what is not to be used. So it comes to us directly. So that is discerning, this discerning eye which each one of us have. Here there is a process, non-intellectual work which accepts certain elements and rejects others. Inspiration, something comes from outside and expands within. Analogy of a voice which speaks in you. So inspiration, I think from time to time, if we are receptive, we can always get inspired from many things that are happening all around us, and it comes from outside. But then there is something within us which kind of calls or attracts or resonates with that, and then through that inspiration something kind of begins to take shape in us. Revelation, analogy of a vision. So I would not know about, not that I know about all the things that I spoke about, but still, revelation is something where it's like, you just had a darshan. Usually, revelation, we use the word epiphany or the revelation. It's like a direct, like a fullness of darshan, concrete darshan that you have, where there is no doubt. So, uh, there we use the word revelation. So something was revealed to us, it became clear to us. So these are all aspects of intuition, four grades in intuition, which is the elementary form of supramental truth. And even opening ourselves to intuitive mind, that is also very fulfilling in nature. Forget about supramental consciousness. Even preparing our mind, silencing, quietening down the being, making it relatively empty and quiet. We prepare the receptacle so that it can receive direct intuitions and they can be followed. Yes. So anything here? Anyone wants to add on anything? So we were reading in Savitri how we time to time we do get these disjointed utterances, but in under the overcrowding of mind's chatter, we don't listen to it. So as the being quietens down slowly, gradually, even more, a time comes that we cannot then ignore what we hear. Like Sri Aurobindo shares, how earlier he was getting a sense that he has to leave the freedom struggle, but the logical mind, the reasoning mind said, no, it's not possible, it can't be, because a sense of self was also associated with that, he realized. And then circumstances made it happen that he landed up in Alipur jail, and now he just has to listen to that. So we do get from time to time, because each one of us, no matter how ordinary we are very special children of the divine, and there is a very unique unfolding of our life. And we are always getting hints and cues which we may choose to ignore. We may have all the reasoning why I did that, but even then we know that something we missed. Only we would know if we are honest to ourselves. Yes, so oh, this is nice. We can take this. Would anyone want to read?
Yeah, Monica, I'll read.
Yes.
Yeah. I want to say something about smoking. I used to smoke. When I came here, I stopped smoking. But when the excess came, slowly I began again, just sometimes. Then I stopped once more. Lately, for 10 days, I have not smoked. But the desire comes back very strongly. I would like to get rid of it very much, for I am not its master. Shall continue?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. If the desire is simply nervous, it can easily be managed. But if it finds a support in the vital and the mind, it is more difficult. In a principle, there are two methods. In principle, there are two methods. The first is to cut off everything abruptly, to make a firm resolution and by an act of will refuse the consent. when the desire comes, to withdraw from it and to let it have its play below, unless one can throw it out also. The desire becomes weaker and weaker. The other method is to give the desire, when it comes, a little satisfaction and then to reject it. To give it a little bhoga. But one must take care to make this only a means to arrive at the rejection, not to indulge in it. For without the resistance is indefinite. These are the two methods used by yogis. Okay.
So I think this is very helpful for us because we think that all these people who are very close and senior disciples whom we revere now as if they did not have any problems. And here we see that the problems were there, but they were constantly trying to transcend and wanting to overcome all the weaknesses. So he shares that, but the desire comes back very strongly. I would like to get rid of it very much, for I am not its master. So, in the sense that he knows that if he indulges in it, then it just overpowers it, him, and he's not able to stop it whenever he wants it. So, Sri Aurobindo shares, if the desire is simply nervous, it can easily be managed. But if it finds a support in the vital and the mind, so you have all your reasons to fulfill that desire, and the feelings are also propelling that yes, the desire must be fulfilled. It gets a support from the life energy. The vital is also life energy, so when you don't fulfill the desire, your life energy goes down. Have you seen that? Has anybody witnessed that when you don't fulfill some or another desire, you're complete, as if you're just dragged down, as if like depression comes into your being when you try not to fulfill, if you have ever experimented with it. So that is the vital support, that the vital wants to fulfill the desire, of course, and it completely takes the being down if not for that fulfilled desire. I have felt this, that's why I can resonate with this very much, that it's like a vital attack, I call it. That vital says that अब like धरना दे दिया, धरना दे देते ना कि मैंने तो नहीं move करना. So all the energies which you could have used in fulfilling that desire, वो vital धरना दे देता है. वो it sucks all the energies and it says that I am not going to work because you did not fulfill my desire. So he says that when the vital and the mind support the desire, then it is very difficult. So when in the vital there is a kind of a stability and you have some good things going on in life which where the life energy is used, then it is relatively easier to work with that desire, because now you don't want to be listening to the dictate of moods. Vital is also responsible for our moods. आज मेरा mood नहीं है, like my mood is very dull today, I don't want to talk to anyone. So that is vital. But when you tell yourself that nothing doing, I have to get up and I have to go to this work that I am doing because it's meaningful or whatever, I want to do it. So you don't give the chance to that mood or that vital to be on strike. Otherwise, the vital can go on strike. It completely sucks away because vital is vitality. Vital is responsible for our life energy. And if we don't fulfill the desire, vital says that, okay, boss, I won't move until you fulfill that desire. So that can happen. Yeah, I don't know if anyone has experience of that. Good to have experience of that, I feel. So he shares. But if it finds a support in the vital and the mind, it is more difficult. So if one is convinced that no, nothing doing, I want to uh, get away from this is not good for me, then we will not be able to uh, too much given to that dictate. So in principle, there are two methods. The first is to cut off everything abruptly. This may work for many of us at many times. To make a firm resolution and by act of will refuse the consent. In many cases, this can work very beautifully. That you just know that it is not beneficial and you just cut it off, with an act of will. When the desire comes, to withdraw from it and to let it have its play below, unless one can throw it out also. The desire becomes weaker and weaker. So, something in the body is demanding. We have a sense. Something in the being is demanding. But you have seated yourself above. So, it is still playing below. It's like you are not completely above it. You know that it is there. So, it is having a play. But you decide not to listen to the dictate. So when the desire comes, to withdraw from it and to let it have its play below. It's not completely gone, disappeared, unless one can throw it out also. It can remain like a spider on my wall, it can just remain. But I'm not listening to it. The desire becomes weaker and weaker because we don't fuel it. We fuel it by thinking about it. When I'm not thinking about it, I'm not giving it attention, it becomes weaker and weaker. The other method is to give the desire when it comes a little satisfaction and then to reject it. This again, I'm sure all of us may have experimented with it, to give a little bhoga like ice creams or coffee or things, whatever. We all know our addictions, that you taste it, you whatever, you have a little time with it, but not that you find your fulfillment through it. To give it a little bhoga, but one must take care to make this only a means to arrive at a rejection. So one does not totally indulge in that thing because one knows that my idea is to transcend and not find a satisfaction through it, because it's like a complete handicap. If we depend on any particular thing for our satisfaction, it's like we are giving ourselves a handicap, an addiction. So not to indulge in it, for without that the resistance is indefinite. So this little bhoga that we give, if we don't give it, we see that it's like a lot of resistance one is feeling. So one says, okay, let me indulge for once. But not that I want to indulge and have enjoyment here, but I just want to let it be. Like, okay, let me see what can it give me. Then you enjoy it and you see the temporariness of it, that it gives you a little bit of enjoyment, whatever addiction we have, and then it's gone. You want it again, you want something else again. So if we don't allow temporary uh, portions of this bhoga or this consumption, then it may be a very strong resistance that we have to encounter and we have to go through. So this is what Sri Aurobindo shares, that these are the two methods used by the yogis. And I'm sure all of us at some point or another must have, to varying degrees, must have experimented if we have worked with our desires. Yeah. Yeah. So anything here? Anyone? I'm remembering mother shares here that somebody asks mother that, mother, do you always give us what we desire or something like that? And mother shares that, I don't always give you what you desire. I do give you what you actually need in order to grow. But at times I also fulfill your desires so that you can know that it is not really true fulfillment. Somewhere like that, mother shares that at times she grants us that चल करके देख भी ले, मिल गया, तसल्ली मिल गई, and then we realize कि नहीं मिली, temporary मिली, but it doesn't last. So she says that at times I do give so that you can have a taste that it is just fleeting and it doesn't fulfill you. So we can read also this next one and then we are done. Yes. So anyone would like to read?
If nobody, I can read.
Yes, please.
I have fought more or less for several years, but I don't seem to have come to any result. I want to be free from desire. Then smoking becomes a matter of indifference. This is my experience in sexual matters. I had to struggle very hard for several years. Then the desire vanished abruptly and left me quiet. However, I know it is not dead and that if circumstances were different, it could wake up and come to life again. That always happens when one fights it out. As for myself, I smoke a little, but for me it is all the same, and my mind is as calm when I do not smoke. But in my case, I become the slave of tobacco. That that is why I want to free myself from it. Anyway, I'm going to do my best.
Yeah, thank you. So that's it. So I think here is where, sorry, we can draw inspiration, I feel, from that Sri Aurobindo shares that I do smoke a little, but for me it is all the same, and my mind is as calm when I do not smoke. So here is where we can draw inspiration that all this restless energy that finds its gratification in somebody outside, some person, some relation, some situation, some addiction, that has to come home within and find its settlement within. तन भीतर भीतर मन मानिया बाहर कतहु न जाए ज्वाला से जल भया बुझी बलंती लाए. So Kabir ji says that in my body itself, this restless prana, this restless energy has got its settlement. And now it doesn't jump on appearances. So then one can do whatever one likes, what is necessary for the path of life, and even then one is not sticky. But for us, most of the time, we begin to have a stickiness in our matters. So a relationship may have come to us just like that, and after some time, if we spend too much time in that, we become sticky. We can't help it. And when it's time for the relation to kind of part ways or change in dynamics, we are not ready for it because we have become addicted. So this is the problem with us, that our calm begins to depend upon that external thing. कि जब तक वो नहीं होगा तो हमको शांति नहीं मिलेगी. So there I feel we have a lot of inspiration here to work upon ourselves. Mm. Yeah, so I think we should maybe end here today. If there are any last comments, reflections, please add. All right, so let's take a moment of silence to dedicate and share the merit, individual and collective, with all the sentient beings who are craving for happiness, just like we also want to be happy, content. May we all find our fulfillment within. May we not suffer. Thank you, everyone.